Guys, you know me, I like to keep it very honest with you. So as much as I like to say, and I believe men really love when a woman is nurturing, caring, does everything for them, they love that, but they don't reward that. There's a big difference between what they love and what they reward. They will always invest way more into the woman that's entitled, ungrateful. That's the person they actually reward. For some reason, they just always want to impress the woman that does that. Whereas the woman that's like, no, I'll pay for my own food, or I'll pay my half, and I'll cook and I'll clean, I'll do everything. If you think that's good, that's going to make, they might love you for that, but they won't reward you for that.
That is without a doubt the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Reward? Lady, could you be any more dramatic? What you're talking about in terms of quote-unquote rewards is just how a relationship is supposed to work. Now, self-respecting men do not reward unpleasant, entitled women. Yeah, they may stick around for a little bit, but once they realize how spoiled this woman is and how ungrateful she is for everything he does for her, he's going to end up leaving for his own sanity. Meanwhile, you take a look at what you call a reward for a man, and you just end up moving the goalpost. Every single nice thing that man does for you is just part of the bare minimum and therefore not worthy of a reward. In this case, a reward would be a thank you, a hug, or a home-cooked meal every once in a while. But you hold these in such high regard that a man must move a mountain in order to get a half-hearted hug. I mean, what kind of a reward is that? No, you see, if a man and a woman truly care for each other, they are not going to look at it in terms of rewards. They're going to look at it in terms of taking care of each other because they care about each other, and that's not the same thing.
You won't get, like, you know, princess treatment in return. They will say that they do, but they don't actually follow through with that. Just like how women say that they want a loyal man, but they can keep dating narcissists. So there's a big difference between what they like and what they reward. Guys, I know you're probably thinking, so what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to cook and clean so he feels loved, or am I supposed to be entitled so I get something out of it? I don't know, bitch. Your guess is as good as mine.
You have failed conclusively. It's over. And there is nothing that you can do here in this room that can turn that around.
Well, woman, with words like that, it's no wonder that you're in the top 1% of female dating coaches, which means that you command an income of $1.72 American every month. Good for you, sister. I mean, it really is stunning and brave of you to pose a problem that doesn't really exist and then not actually have any form of solution, just resorting to saying, I don't know. Because let's think about this for a second. You're saying that men are the problem because they don't reward good behavior, even though that does come in the form of loyalty, trust, and caring about another human being, which just denotes the idea that you don't view men as human. You just view them as service providers, and that your advice caters to women who just want to use men to that effect. So what's the solution to this particular problem? Well, it's fairly simple. You shut your mouth, you turn off your phone, and stop acting like you know men because you watched a couple of romantic comedies. You see, that's called a solution. It actually works a hell of a lot better than saying your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah, that checks out. That sounds about right.
Stop avoiding yourself. Stop settling for the things that you don't actually want. Stop distracting yourself from your most aligned path. Stop making yourself feel like what you truly are is not worthy of pursuing.
Like, people talking, you say, huh? What are you talking about?
The way I think of this is I'm avoiding myself right now in moments when I do those things. I'm avoiding my truth. I'm avoiding my authenticity and my alignment. Because sometimes to face and accept yourself, whatever that means for you, can be scary, it can be terrifying, it can be overwhelming, it could involve a lot of hard work.
And you get a reaction from people who say, huh? What are you talking about?
Lady, please, I'm almost begging you here. If you're going to actually go on one of these true and authentic journeys to go find your most true and authentic self to become the best boss bay ass queen you can possibly be, do you think you could actually clue us in as to what exactly you mean by finding your truth and becoming authentic? The truth is subjective. It means something different to everybody, but you're acting like it's this holy thing that you need to become in order to be happy in life, which is impossible. Modern women love this idea of going out there to find themselves, and that usually involves a trip to Europe and not much else. I mean, let's not mince words here. Modern women hate the concept of work. They don't want to go to their jobs. They don't even want to lift a finger around the house. They want a man to do it all for them. So where is this epic journey of truth even going to lead you? The concept of finding your most true and authentic self is just a buzzword for being lazy, that you don't know what to do, you don't want to put any work in order to make it happen. I mean, you can't even decide what you want for dinner without having a nervous breakdown, so how in the hell are you gonna figure out this epic truth journey of yours?
But this kind of hard work, I find, while still difficult, right, it's easier said than done, is the kind of hard work that pays off in the long run. It's the kind of hard work that feels completely and totally aligned with you and the kind of person you want to be. So yeah, it might be easier at times to avoid who you are innately because you can continue living in a comfortable space in your life right now. And there's nothing right or wrong morally about doing this, right? It's about finding what works best for you and allows you to live a life of contentment and satisfaction. It might be easier to continue on the way things are, to avoid your truth, to avoid feeling like you have to pivot or change or shake things up, because it's hard to do that at times, right? But I think in the long run, the more you avoid yourself, the more that version of you will come back and scream louder and louder until you finally listen.
What does that even mean?
Well, that's a lot of sound and fury to symbolize less than nothing. I mean, woman, there's no need for any of this poetic gibberish. We all know what you mean. This is the kind of talk that you use when you try to come up with the most petty of excuses to divorce your husband, to go out there for a couple more rounds on the carousel before you realize that you threw out a perfectly good thing for no reason, and then you can start the process of making angry TikToks because your ex-husband is doing better than you. And while we're on the subject, why did you wait so late in life to go on this epic journey of yours? Shouldn't you have been doing that since, birth? There's just something magical about a woman in her mid-30s after she used her husband to get a couple of babies that she finally realizes she has no idea who she is, and the only logical solution is to completely destroy the lives of everyone around her so she can go out and find herself, even though she's had ample time to do that already. But as we all know, finding yourself is nothing unless it comes with a massive payday in the form of a divorce.
So you can see that is, I'm no economist, but that is a load of dough.
Let's talk about what creepiness is, because a lot of men spread the myth that it's another word for unattractive, and it takes about 3 minutes of listening to understand that's not true. This study explains creepiness with threat ambiguity theory. Basically, if it's ambiguous whether or not something poses a potential threat, then we feel creeped out. Not to be confused with something being determined a confirmed threat, which would cause us to up and run and scream and make a scene. No, this is ambiguous whether or not it's a threat. We're not sure. If we're not sure if someone is a threat or not, then we can't break the social contract and scream. Instead, we just have to act natural and feel very hyper aware and hyper vigilant of that person.
That's not my problem. It's yours.
Right, and the reason why you feel unsafe by this guy is because you find him unattractive, and unattractive people are violent and have all sorts of ill intent. That's what this is all about. Just because you quote some random study doesn't prove a thing, especially in the field of psychology where every other academic research paper contradicts the one that's before it. Psychology is just one gigantic argument that's never been solved. And we don't need to look through psych databases to actually prove this. All we gotta do is look at that social experiment of that dude who created a Tinder profile of a Chad guy who actually said that he went to jail for domestic violence, and all of the women gave him a pass. If you did the exact same thing with a man who was even marginally attractive, then you would call him creepy and that the cops needed to be called on him post-haste. It has to do with your perception of a man's value, and that is hinged on how you find him attractive. There's no sense denying it, lady. We all know the truth. You're just the one that's trying to hide it.
That, my friends, is creepiness. When you understand this, everything else about creepiness will make perfect sense. Men tend to be bigger and stronger, so if they are a threat, they are a more dangerous threat. That's why both men and women, 95% of people, rank men as more likely to be seen as creepy. And women rank the possibility of sexual threat as the highest level of creepiness, which makes perfect sense since it's the #1 type of threat we face. And if you're really smart, you've probably figured out the antidote to threat ambiguity and creepiness, which I'll talk about in a later video.
No, and I don't care.
Oh, absolutely, sweetheart. We don't need to check out any more of your stupid videos because we, the proud members of the illustrious Bottom 95% Club, already know the solution, and that is just to ignore you, avoid you, and not talk to you at all. You act like the label of creepy is just this inconvenient thing, when in reality, being labeled a creep has some serious societal consequences for a man whose only crime was guilty of actually talking to you. And you can't argue that's not a solution because you've been doing that for literally decades. You ignore any man that you deem somewhat unattractive because they are subhuman and you feel like you're entitled to the best that men have to offer. So we're just cutting out the middleman here and doing exactly unto you as you've done unto us. And it kind of sucks too because nobody wanted it to get to this point, but it's a survival mechanism. We have no choice but to ignore you because if we do come up to you and try to strike up a conversation, there's a very good chance that we'll get pepper sprayed, we'll get humiliated, or you'll call the cops on us. You made your bed, sister. Now it's your turn to lay in it.
This is just so shocking. I mean, I must just be so monumentally naive.
You are.
I dare you to tell me that I'm wrong on this take. A man that makes you sad on your birthday hates you. He hates you. If he starts an argument on your birthday or a few days before your birthday, that's because he's broke and he can't afford to get you anything or take you out. All I gotta say is that is a valid reason to break up with him and never look back. Because there are men out there that will buy you flowers, that will fill up your tank, that will open doors for you, that will compliment you daily, and treat you like the queen that you are.
You're not just wrong, you're stupid. Now wait just a minute. And you're ugly, just like your mum.
Okay, let's go ahead and break down this birthday wish list, sweetheart. Of the things that you mentioned, one of which involved buying flowers, buying gasoline, and showering you with compliments. And nothing of that actually has to do with anything about how he treats you, just what he's willing to buy you. So let me see if I can get this straight here. You got upset at a man who wasn't willing to actually spend good money on an extravagant birthday for you, and that made you sad, and then you started giving him attitude, and he got tired of your attitude, so he called you out on it, and then you decided to tell yourself that he straight up hated you for making you sad on your birthday, even though you're the one who actually made the active decision to be sad and he had very little to do with it. A man can actually care for his woman without having to shell out a whole bunch of money just to make her happy. It's actually been known to happen. We've been seeing it for thousands of years. But let's just go ahead and be real here for a second. This has absolutely nothing to do with how much a man cares for you, just the things that he's willing to buy you, and if he's not showering you with gifts, then that just hurts your fifis.
And why the fuck are you settling for anything less than that? Wake up! Sorry, that like unleashed something in me because, and I put up with this like once, maybe like 2 years ago. And now that I think about it, I was like, this man hated me. This man hated me. He wanted to be me, and he hated me. So don't do that.
Whoa.
Allow me to put your insecurities to rest there, darling, because there isn't a man alive that wants to actually be you, but that's only because most men carry self-respect, self-confidence, and they actually have the capacity for rational thought. Let's just go ahead and think about this for a second there, babe. Now, you're saying that this man straight up hated you because he made you sad on your birthday and didn't give you everything that you ever could have possibly wanted, and even after 2 years, it still forces you into a temper tantrum. There is a word to describe people like you. It's called a child. That's all you are. Yeah, in the legal sense of the word, you are technically an adult, but your brain hasn't developed past the age of 5. You possess the same mentality a child has when they bring home their report card with mostly F's because they didn't study, but they blame the teacher for hating them instead of their own crappy attitude. This would be the part where I tell you to grow up, but come on, let's just be reasonable here. There's no hope for that for you at all. I want to take a couple of moments to say thank you to the fine members of the Bounty Board over on Patreon for their continued support of this channel as we continue to crank out content every single day for you fine gentlemen and gents out there. To the members of the Bounty Board, words cannot describe how much your support means to me. I know I say it every single day, but that does not make it any less true. Thank you a trillion times over your support. I couldn't do this without you. All hail! And if you're interested in supporting my work, check out the Bounty Board over on Patreon, for $5 a month, you can get access to exclusive content you're not going to find on YouTube. I post up there twice a week. Check it out. The link is in the pinned comment down below, and I hope I've earned your support today.
Well, if women were just nicer to men, maybe men would be more open to feminism. So actually, women were subservient to men for thousands and thousands of years and had to be nice to men so they didn't die. And guess what? It didn't get us any closer to men seeing us as actual human beings. Women are literally conditioned from day one, from birth, to be as patient and polite and understanding with men as physically possible. And most men never notice that because they see that as completely normal. Any man who expects extra hand-holding and coddling on top of all that, just in order to see women as human beings deserving of respect, deserving of equal rights, deserving of safety in society, is incredibly selfish.
Scary.
Whoa, 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 slow your roll there, Chatty Cathy. Let's just go ahead and get something straight first. There is not a self-respecting man on this earth who is actually going to be open to the idea of feminism. And that's just because feminism makes women incredibly unpleasant. And, well, let's just be real here. You are basing this off of history that is alternate at best. Now, I will agree with you 0.01% that, yeah, historically speaking, men were the leaders and women naturally followed. It worked well for thousands of years, but now you're just saying that because women weren't able to buy tampons until 1987 because the patriarchy oppressed them, that somehow this gives you the right to be incredibly unpleasant and bitter towards every single man that's ever lived. Now, if you ask any self-respecting man, they will tell you that they do view women as human. You've had that for literally thousands of years, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about you being put up on a pedestal because you have a baby maker, and that's just not happening with us, sweetheart.
The fact that many women who have experienced unimaginable levels of cruelty at the hands of certain men continue to advocate for things like men's mental health and men's ability to express themselves within society proves that this point is ridiculous. You don't advocate for something just because everyone in the group was nice to you. You advocate for something because it's the right thing to do, because everyone deserves to be treated as a human being and deserves to have proper rights within this society. That is not too much to ask of you. That is not too much to ask of anyone.
Maybe you should shut up.
Well, the good news is, woman, you're not oppressed. You just pretend that you are because you like attention. If you don't believe me, all you gotta do is listen to the talking points of people in power at the federal, state, and local level. Just listen to the platitudes that are spoken by corporate America, Big Pharma, and every other tech company. Not to mention how you have the unbridled support of social media, while guys like us who just want our voices heard get suppressed and shadow banned at the drop of a freaking hat. You got everything you ever wanted handed to you on a silver platter, and yet you're still miserable and blaming us for your shortcomings, to which you have several. Now, I actually find myself agreeing with you. We don't have equal rights in the West, and that's because you have significantly more rights than any other man. You just act like it because you want to justify your terrible behavior. Now, all you have to do is like 5 minutes worth of research to find out what true oppression looks like in today's world, but you're never going to do that because you're too fixated on Chad dumping you because you're not a nice person.
I know it, your family knows it, dogs know it.
You guys know that I just moved out of Spain after living there for a year, and while I was there, I noticed something about the Spanish people that was so profoundly different from what I'm used to in America that like it changed who I am as a person, and I think about it all the time and I just feel like I need to share it. You know, like the physical touch that's non-sexual, like putting your hand on someone else's hand to like give them comfort, or if you're walking side by side with your friend and you like put your arm around their neck to like be buddy with them, like little things like that. I noticed that the Spanish people and the Spanish women in particular do little non-sexual physical touches like this with people so much more frequently than you ever see in America.
Whoa! Hey! Don't touch me!
Well, there's a reason why the Spaniards do it and we don't in America, and a lot of it has to do with consent. You know that thing that women like you never shut up about? Yeah, if we don't have consent to touch another person, that's assault, and we could actually go to jail for that, which is why we need to make sure we have consent from another person before even touching them in any way, shape, or form. Hell, even if we accidentally brush up against somebody, that is grounds for a false claim. So we're not gonna end up touching anyone anybody just so we can keep ourselves out of jail. Now, to be fair, I know absolutely nothing about the Spaniard people. I know nothing about Spain, and I know nothing about the culture de la España, if you will. Hell, I don't even know if the term Spaniard is offensive or not, but I like saying it because it sounds kind of cool. So if you do hail from that great country, please let me know if I'm wrong on any of this, because, well, I actually am interested in learning about other people's cultures. I'm not like her and just completely ignorant to the demands that she makes while being shocked when people actually meet them.
And I mean just like strangers too. Like there was one time that I was in an El Corte Inglés, which is essentially like a Dillard's, and I went up to a sales associate and I asked her where like something was or if they had something, and she gently touched my forearm and was like, I don't remember, but let me go ask my associate. And I was just like, aw. Like, it makes you feel like human. It makes you feel more like familiar, that like you're in like a community and like people are just people around you, and like, I don't know.
Don't touch me, motherfucker. Get out.
Yeah, it's almost like we crave physical touch from other people because we're social beings. I mean, who would have thunk it? But yeah, that's not happening in America. Ever. If a grocery store employee even touches a person on the arm, then that guy could get fired. It doesn't matter if it makes you feel human or not. That went out the window the day modern women decided that 95% of men were predators and they were to be avoided at all costs. We're not touching you in any way, shape, or form. Mainly because, well, to be frank, we don't know where you've been outside of Spain. And I don't care how bad you think you have it, sweetheart, because it is 10 times worse for men who will go literal years in between hugs from people. We have significantly more to lose in that department than you ever could. What you think is sweet and endearing and should be brought back is practically a death sentence for men. Modern women created a world where a touch is somehow akin to a violent assault, so we're not doing it anymore. It sucks, but that's the world that was ushered in, and we all have to live with it, and that includes you, sister.
I would see it reflect in boys too. Like, they would be more comfortable with like physical affection with their male friends as well. And I feel like we just don't ever do that in America. I don't know if it's like the individualism or what, but I've started like incorporating it like a little bit more, and I've noticed that like my friends, they have told me that they really like it, that I've like started doing it, and they find it like really sweet and like very comforting. But I think it's so cute because it shows like companionship, and it shows that like you're cool with that person, and like not everything has to be expressed with words, and it's just another way to like show that like you care for another human being just through like body language.
Don't touch him! Don't touch him! Let's just get the obvious out of the way first, sweetheart. You cannot express anything through words because you've used the word like literally 20 times in a single sentence. Now, considering that you are not mentioning the specific genders of these friends that you're touching, I'm forced to assume that you're touching fellow women, which is fine. They're your friends, and if they're cool with it, whatever. But you're not mentioning men because men respond to physical touch a little differently, especially if it's coming from a woman. That kind of messes with our heads a little bit, especially when most of us were brought up being told we are not to place our hands on anybody unless we have permission, unless we're actually about to engage in fisticuffs. Then it's no holds barred at that point. Now, if you want to live in a society where people are touching each other in a friendly way, then I kindly suggest you move back to Spain and do it there, because it's not happening in God's America, sweetheart. We live in a society where we need about 5 different forms of consent, all notarized in triplicate before even attempting to touch a woman's hand. And with those rules, if you ever touch me, then you can talk to my lawyer, you assaulting freak. And that's gonna do it for today's video, gentlemen and gents. And as always, if you find that my particular brand of comedy is bringing you to the brink of laughter, then why don't you scroll on down and click that like and subscribe button. Ring the notification bell, leave a couple of comments, and make sure to share this video so we can give the good old-fashioned middle finger to the YouTube algorithm. Thank you so much for checking out the new video, gentlemen and gents, and until next time, peace out, homies.